19 years sober. This being you're speaking to, like, if I went back out, like, I don't know what would happen. I know that I probably do have another run to me, as scary as it is to say that, because there's a lot of other people counting on me now. I don't know if I have another recovery in me. Once I had even a sip of alcohol, like, it was off to the races, and I would do everything and anything and all night and not stop. All those sayings that you hear, I'm here to tell you are true. A belly full of booze and a mind full of sobriety is a really, really hard place to be. I go to his aid and I blast the cop, punch him right in the nose, break his nose. I woke up Thanksgiving morning in Nassau County lockup for, a first-degree assault of a police officer. God moved my feet and moved my hands better than I could, and I found myself calling New York City Intergroup, and I went to a meeting on May 13th, 2006, and I haven't had a drink or a drug or anything since.
Hey guys, I have Gary today. He is the founder of the Begin Again podcast, and he's been sober since 2006. Almost 2 decades, Gary. That's crazy.
That is crazy. Making me feel old. That's crazy. If you knew me 19 years ago, you really thought that's crazy.
Right? Isn't that funny how that works?
It is. It really is.
And you started a Recover brand.
I did.
Apparel brand. How's that going?
It's going great. It's part, it's a community. It's for the Recover Out Loud community. It's rcvrbrand.com. Just getting going. We just launched a couple of months ago. There's a lot to do, which I told you off camera, but there's a lot to come and learning a lot, but the community is incredible. So it's, I'm really inspired by it. I want to eliminate this. I don't want to lessen the stigma. I want to eliminate the stigma, and I want to raise awareness, and I want to be everywhere.
Yeah, I love it. And you've sent me some stuff too, and I wear it I wear it most days of the week.
Love it. See, I love it. That makes me excited.
Yeah. And I get a lot of compliments on the sweatshirt.
Love it. I appreciate that. I really do. We need to do some more. We'll send you some more stuff.
I'll take all the sweatshirts. So you also are the founder of the Begin Again podcast, which mine just released on yours today.
Yes. By the way, I don't know if you're aware, today is episode 100 for the Begin Again podcast, and you are episode 100. So I'm great. Look at where we are. It's all meant to be. It was all in the cards. So I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful to have connected with you. I mean that sincerely, and I'm happy that you're episode 100.
Yes, I have been busy today, so I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, because like I told you, I've had back-to-back people today. So
yes. I'm
excited to listen to it and be 100. I am a numbers person, so definitely I love that. So I'm off social media for most of you that know, but it's hard to still keep in contact with everybody that I was in contact with, but Thankfully we have still stayed in contact.
Yes, and we will for sure.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about the Begin Again podcast. So being almost 2 decades sober, you started that podcast a couple of years ago? Yes.
Yeah, I started it in almost exactly 2 years to the day almost. I haven't missed a week. So going on almost, 100, I guess 4 more episodes will be exactly 2 years ago. I started it 2 years ago. I don't know where it came from, Megan. Like, I like listening to podcasts, not necessarily, recovery podcasts. Big into like mindset. You see some of the guys in the back of my wall here, some of the champions, but I'm really interested in their mindset. Right. And so I don't know where, I have like an entrepreneurial spirit. We've talked about a few things offline, and my wife has heard every ridiculous idea I've come up with in the past, 15, 16 years. And I think I was on a podcast and I shared my story, and they said, wow, you really, that was pretty cool. You should probably like start your own podcast. And I was like, what am I going to start my own podcast about? And it's like, well, what do you mean? And so, long story in my head short, it just got to me, like, and I put together like this mission statement on what it could be. And it like kind of flowed out of me, and I was like, "Oh my God, what is she gonna say?" And I wasn't on social media like at all. I was, like no Instagram, nothing. And I was like, how am I going to tell my wife that, not only am I going to be, maybe I'm thinking of starting this podcast, but that I'm going to be like, you know, way into social media and completely vulnerable and telling the world my story, I guess, if you will. And, I showed her the mission statement and she's like, Gary, honestly, drop everything else and go all into this. She's like, this is so you. Like you love talking about this stuff with people. You love when people come to you. You love when, people ask you for help, on the side. And
Mhm.
she's like, this is just so you. And I was like, I think you're right. And it like, I don't want to sound like I don't want to come off the wrong way here, but like it was very quickly way bigger than me. And that's how I went with it also. Like it's not about me. Like I don't want
Mhm.
it to be about me. It's about the guests and about people sharing their stories. And I just went with, listen, I want to help one person every single day. And like that was the mantra. And that's kind of the mantra now. I gotten a little greedier. Now I'm like, it's growing. Like I was like, let's help as many people as we can today. Like I want to, and I do thoroughly enjoy having conversations with people like you and other people and talking about this stuff. I love the word personal transformation, life transformation. Like those words
Yeah.
really excite me. So that's kind of how it was born. I never knew about this crazy, amazing, beautiful Recover Out Loud community that there is before I got here. And it's amazing. Now I'm kind of like you and I, like we're part of that community. It's an amazing community.
Yeah. No, there's when I did my very first video, I never expected it to do what it did. And I mean, my channel was health and fitness. I did
Yeah,
one sobriety video and I was like, oh my gosh, I found my calling in life. And I absolutely, those messages that pour in daily about how you've helped them or they're like you're such an inspiration. It just keeps you motivated to just keep going because you're helping people. It's so powerful.
it is. It is. I totally agree. I've gotten some of those, maybe not as many as you, but I've gotten those too. And they're really, they keep you going, right? Like I could have imposter syndrome too, just like many of us out there.
Oh
And
yeah.
like, who do you think you are? What are you doing? And there's a lot that goes into it, as you know, also.
Yeah.
But you get those messages like, hey, I just heard you on that. Like, thank you so much. This happened to me. Or, right. And sometimes they're like across the globe, in the UK or the Philippines. Like, I've gotten crazy messages from, really deep, powerful, impactful messages about real life stuff. And I don't know, I think it's awesome.
Yeah. There is a lot that goes into it, isn't there?
Yes. Yes,
People
there is.
think that we're just out here to make some money, and I'm like, it takes like hundreds and thousands of subscribers probably to make some money,
I would say if you know how to
and
make money
everything
doing
does
this,
cost money.
let me know if you know how to make money doing this. I haven't gotten
Right?
there yet.
Oh my gosh. It's just so funny because I mean our cameras cost money, our lights cost money, our computers cost money, internet. I mean you gotta have good internet,
Yeah.
microphones, oh, software. I
The
mean, this
software
isn't
that
free
this isn't,
to
no,
record on.
all there's a lot. Not to mention how much time and effort it goes into it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it takes time away from our family. I think a lot of people miss that part too. They think that, we're just should do everything at the drop of what they want, but it's at the same time like we also have families. I mean, you have what, two kids?
Yeah, too. Yep.
Two kids and a
Hmm.
wife.
Yes.
And we've talked about our kids also and how we get to raise them in a sobriety
Right.
lifestyle.
Yes, we have. We have, right. And
Yeah.
that's breaking the mold. I think we talked about this, you and I, is breaking the
Yeah.
generational mold, right? And, I think we were even laughing about the last time is, I mentioned I wasn't even on social media, but now that I have the podcast, my kids came down. They're like, one day, they're like, Dad, did you get arrested when you were 16? I'm like, how'd you hear that? Like, well, we just saw it. I'm like, all right, I'll tell you that story when you're just not quite ready for it, but I'll tell you. But I'm laughing, but the truth is, we're having those real conversations. None of them were happening when you and I were growing up and seeing everything that was around our lives, and it was just a way of life, right? There was no, there was no conversation about it. And now, we just celebrated. I just celebrated 19 years. My wife makes a kind of big deal, just the four of us, but
Yeah.
everyone knows Dad doesn't drink, and they know how bad it is for you. Like I say that, like that doesn't mean they're not going to have their own paths and their own journeys, because they are. But I pray. It's one of it's obviously it's our biggest fear that
Yes.
we plant some different seeds in their minds than ones that you and I had, right? Like it's kind of all we knew. I couldn't wait to get out there and hang out with people older than me and party, and
Mhm.
that's how it started. And I think I might have shared this. I'm not sure, but we were away, and my daughter she got a what do you call it, a virgin pina colada. It's like they like to have those when we're on vacation. And so she took a sip of it, and she's like, it tastes funny. I'm like, there's no way there's booze in there,
Oh,
right? So I went to like take it, and she goes, and she's 12 now. She goes, no, no, Dad, you can't try it. I was like, oh, you see, like they fully know. So I'm like, oh, thank you, sweetheart. I'll be okay. I just want to, make sure there's no booze in here. My point is, we have these conversations,
yeah.
and it's breaking the mold. And I know you and we talk kind of in depth about breaking that generational mold. And yeah, I mean, we do the best. We educate them and be honest. Like there was really no honesty when I was growing up. Everything was like all secrets and BS. Like so I'm the opposite. So like I told you, I got in trouble. Like they know Dad got in trouble. They know why Dad got in trouble. They know that Dad didn't drink well. They know that there's more stories for them to. Maybe they're not going to hear every single one, if you know what I mean. But
They
the
don't
point
need to
is,
hear every single one,
no,
and
they
that's
don't
the
need
thing.
to hear
Like,
every single
I
one,
hope
right?
you teach your child not to do what you did. Okay, well, maybe my child won't know exactly what I did, like every single detail that I did.
No, nor should they, right? That's not fair for anyone, right? Yes, no,
No.
I totally agree. But like they're involved in the recover, and they're involved in the podcast, and they know that I'm doing one with you tonight, or if I'm having one on mine, or when they're working on stuff in the business, they know what it's about. They know who it's for. So it's and they know Dad's got this podcast, and they know Dad tries to help people with it. So I know that actually, truthfully, that they're proud of it, and I know your family
Yeah.
is as well.
Oh yeah, my daughter like she loves it. Loves
Yeah,
it.
right.
Um so you got arrested when you were 16 years old. Tell us
Yes.
what happened.
So, you know, I started drinking normally. When I say normally, maybe a little younger than most, or maybe not, maybe you can relate, but, I started drinking 12, 11, 12, whatever, parents' liquors cabinets and things like that. You progress as you get a little older. And it was a night before Thanksgiving. It's a huge night, and certainly a huge night in my town. I grew up in Port Washington, Long Island, great town. They say it's a drinking town with a fishing problem is what it's been dubbed a few times, but it really is a great place. And I was just with my older cousins, who I looked up. I have three older cousins, and they were they're like my heroes. And we were like to the batting cages. We were drinking some beers in the back seat. I was just like in my element with my with these old. I couldn't wait to get older. Like I just couldn't wait to get there.
Yeah.
So I'm 16. They're well graduated. They're in college, and they're talking about, oh man, and the bar's called Finn McCool's. Like, oh, Finn McCool's is going to be raging tonight. You gotta, you should try to get in there. And I was like, oh, I just had it in my head. Like, I'm going. So, going out through the day, whatever, 9, 10 o'clock, we go. And I sneak in the bar, and this place is like 10 deep, but I know every single person in the bar. It's the local bar, and the whole town is there. Right. And so
Hmm.
I'm having a great time. I'm really getting after it. And, a few hours later, a brawl breaks out and goes out into the street. It's my three cousins, and it's a big brawl. And so, the story is a cop goes to arrest. They show up, cop goes to arrest, one of my cousins, and I go to his aid, and I blast the cop, punch him right in the nose, break his nose. And now I'm not even a big guy now, but when I was 16, I would probably weigh, I don't know, 150, 160 pounds. I was a skinny, kid. I was the youngest kid by miles there at that night. And so I woke up Thanksgiving morning in Nassau County lockup for, a first degree assault of a police officer. And, that was such a, it altered the path of my life. Like everyone looked at me differently. I went from like this kind of, I don't say innocent, certainly getting in a lot of trouble, but not serious trouble, at least yet, to like, graduating and like, not passing go and going from, A to Z in like, in a matter of one night. And, all the kind of like big tough guys in town, like they kind of like, hey, come here, man. Like he's all right. Come hang out with me, and I just went from it kind of changed it altered the path of my life for sure. And I was in a lot of trouble too. Like I was, I was facing time in jail. It was a serious thing. I was captain of my high school baseball team. I love sports. You can see I played sports, and kind of I was in big trouble, and I stayed in the baseball team, but it was such a big event, but it was really it was it was a path. I got in a lot of trouble after that too, but that was like the first fray. It was a real, I didn't kind of warm up to it, I guess is what I'm trying to get to. I went from like I said, 0 to 60, and I was in a lot of trouble. And I was in trouble for years with that. Yeah, that
Oh.
wasn't a fun one.
Uh, the song comes to my mind. Try that in a small town
Try that in a
by
small town.
like by Jason Aldean. I don't know, like messing with the cops.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's funny. I
uh,
actually messed with the cops, yeah, on that when they I don't think I've ever shared this like on podcast, but when they got me, it's the guy who I you know assaulted or whatever. Now I'm handcuffed and like taking the back seat, the back of the station. Like when we got back there, they threw me down the stairs and like tried to rough me up, and I was just like, I'm handcuffed now. I'm like, yeah, go ahead. And, I was like, I was such a wise ass too at the time too. I was, but I still, I was like, go ahead. This is the only time you can get me while while you got me handcuffed, pal. But anyway, you just remind right. That goes along with the song, I think.
right. Oh my gosh. So we watched some cop shows, and now watching them sober, it's kind of cringeworthy. And I just saw you in the back of a cop car, just like being such a jerk to the
Oh
cops,
yeah, yeah,
because these teenagers just think they are just you know they think they're God, and
yeah.
well, you get knocked down real quick.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. They'll show you what's up.
Right. um so uh I think you mention that you were into drugs, also drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, for me, alcohol was first and foremost, and it led to
Right.
everything else. Like if I wasn't drinking, I wouldn't have touched anything else.
Yeah.
But once I had even a sip of alcohol, like it was off to the races, and I would do everything and anything and all night and not stop.
Yeah.
And so my first real, I don't call myself an addict. I'm an alcoholic to me, but like I was the type of person like I'd have people, friends of mine that they like to do some dry good stuff, but like once they would even have to hide it from me, like because they knew once that Gary was here and involved with like it was a different speed. It was all gone, and I have to call the guy again. It was just like get out of the way basically, and that's how it was for me. And I certainly had, had a lot of fun with on ecstasy and a lot of fun with cocaine. But the thing about cocaine is once I found that, it allowed me to drink more. It allowed me to drink, like keep going. That's why I was
I've
like,
heard
oh,
that.
cool, man. Like, yeah, like, because I loved to drink. Loved it. And I drink anything and I drink big dudes under the table. And like, I was a drinker. I was. And when I found cocaine, which I found it a little later than at least some of the people I knew, it allowed me to drink more. And I think looking back, it actually also, in a weird way, it I don't want to say I'm grateful for it, but it sped up all of my downfall, if you will. It sped it all up. Like it I kept getting darker and putting going place, and then you're on benders, right? And yeah, like there was a time when I loved the party. Like I loved it, and looking back, it's because you don't want to feel, right? And there's a lot of things you're running from, which I didn't know, but the cocaine and stuff that it helped me. Like I said, it sped up my downfall. It got me to where am now in a weird way faster. I think, I was clearly alcoholic from the get go without anything else. So, in a weird way that, I guess it aided, again, sped up my downfall. Excuse me, sped up my downfall, but it got me to, crash and burn multiple times.
I've heard um I never done the hard drugs, but I've known a lot of people that have done it, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, Coke helped me stay drunk all night."
Yeah.
Or, ugh, the hangover though. What was the hangover worse?
The hangover. Here's another sick, but again, I was a sick dude, right? Like, so the hangover's bad. There was one thing to fix it, you know,
Hair
and
of the
get right
dog.
back on the horse. And like, that's what I did. And that was like, I was just talking to someone else prior, but like the cunning, baffling, powerful part. Like, I had that like so nailed. Even like, listen, my buddies are awesome group of guys, but they're no like angels, right? But like, they weren't waking up at 10 o'clock in the next morning, in a stupor and cracking beers or getting another cocktail and like just keep going, like let's go, like and that's I did that like often, like, all the time, So again, I think you're running again. I learned this as I started doing work on myself later, in when I first got sober. Like yeah, clearly I was, I was trying to numb myself. I didn't want to feel. I felt less than. I didn't know it. I was, they say in the program, like, you can put, there's the word fear a lot. I was like, oh, I don't think I'm afraid of anything really. And I think honestly, I don't mean to sound like a jerk when I say that. Like, I think you would have thought like, yeah, I don't think he's afraid of much. But when you start doing the work on myself, I realized that, man, I'm afraid of it. Like everything, like
Yeah.
I could put fear next to everything, like I'm afraid I'm fearful what Megan's going to think of me. I'm fearful what her guests are going to think of me, or, and so you get past all that, or, it's really, it's a piling on of, I feel less than, low self-esteem. And I say all this stuff, but I didn't realize it when I was in it. And then I realized it clearly, and it was so eye-opening, and it took me down also when I got sober and started doing the work on myself. Like, oh my God, I feel like I'm really just a piece of garbage, all the time. I didn't know that. I didn't articulate it when I was in it, is what I'm saying.
I don't think a lot of us do. When we're in it, we're like in it and we're so naive to all of it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think a lot of us, that's the one question I ask a lot of people too. Like, how did you know? Like, were you able to how were you able to articulate that so quick? Because it took me a while, And so I'm always kind of curious, like, how long did it take for you to, like you said it so eloquently, I want to change my life and this and that. Like, how did you get there? It kind of like happened to me. I didn't even, and it's also like when I finally did get sober, like, I was just there, like, to just not drink. Like, that was it. Like, my tunnel vision was like this. And so it took me a while to like get the cobwebs off and to realize there's so much to this, right? And
Yeah.
we're still on the same path, how many years later? Like you said, almost 2 decades later, like I'm still on the same path but it's a path of growth, and it's a path
Yeah.
of positivity. It's a path of what's, what can come. It's all good. It's all good stuff. Life happens, don't get me wrong, but it's just so much better this way.
Somebody, this brings up a something that I talked to somebody about earlier today, and he has a goal of next summer being a transformation, working a year to it,
Mm-hmm.
and but it's always the what are the benefits of it. Nobody knows what the benefits are until you actually do it, right?
Well, yeah. I say this a lot, right? Like, you could probably understand this. Like, there's, when you go into a rehab or you go into a meeting, or when you start, like you had said, the beginning of this transformation, like, you don't know it's the beginning of a transformation. There's no big sign that says, hey, come on in here. You're going to completely change your life, and it's going to be way better than you ever possibly imagine. Like, no, we're, like, what's the song? No one comes in here on a winning streak. We're crawling in here. There's nowhere else for us to go. We don't know any other way. Also, like, this is the only way of life that we know. Like,
Yeah.
I went to rehab. I mentioned I went to rehab in 2002. My sobriety date's 2006. I was in and out for 4 years, so it took me a while. Like, it took a while.
It took. I just want to pause. It took you 4 years.
In
Four
and out.
years.
I was in and out. When I say in
So
and out,
many
like,
people beat themselves up so hard, but look how far you are now, and it took you 4 years.
I, Listen, there was a lot of I burned a lot of bridges in those 4 years in a way, or even like sincerely. All those sayings that you hear, I'm here to tell you are true. Like, a belly full of booze and a mind full of sobriety is a really, really hard place to be. You want to talk about thinking, I don't know if I can curse on here, but like thinking like I'm a piece of garbage or a piece of, what, like, wow, that's multiplied. Want to talk about failing? I want to talk about people like, oh, I'm not drinking. I'm not drinking there anymore. Like we don't know. I didn't know anything. I'm not drinking. Or I go to a rehab. You get out of the rehab and I'm out, not even a month later, pedal to the metal. I go AWOL at work. I worked at a huge Wall Street firm, a huge trading desk. There was probably 1,000, no joke, 1,000 people probably on this one floor. The whole entire place knew that this guy went AWOL for 3 days and didn't show up, and he's been in rehab for 30 days. And I come back, and not even a month later, I'm like, F everybody. This is who I am. You're either on this team or you're against it. And I really don't care what team you are. And I said that to some of the closest people in my life too, like some of my best friends. I put them in really bad places, bad positions in my family. And I was like, hey, listen, guys, these are my best friend, like my boys, right? My brothers. Like, hey, man, you're either on this team or you're off this team, and I really don't care what side you're on. Get out of my way, And so yeah, it took me 4 years. It doesn't have to take everybody 4 years though. It doesn't. Like, there's so many people that come in and they get it. Like my journey was my journey. My path is my path, and maybe I have a even extra bit of compassion or love for the people that come in, because now I'll tell you this. Now, yes, I'm 19 years sober. I just celebrated, last month. You know, I this person, this being you're speaking to, like, if I went back out, like, I don't know what would happen. Like, I know that I probably do have another run in me, as scary as it is to say that, because there's a lot of other people counting on me now. I don't know if I have another recovery in me. So, like, and when people that do relapse and they come back in, I just admire them so much because of that fact. Like, I don't know if I can make it back. Talk about fear. For me, that's one of the healthy fears in my life. Like, I'm gonna keep that one. That's cool. Like, I did all the testing that you can do.
The scare tactic. I've talked to a few people this week that are in their scare zone right now,
Yeah,
but that scares me too. One drink will slip me way backwards, and I'll
there's
probably not want to be sober again.
yeah. I mean, who knows, right? And like I said, there's too many people. There's too many people counting on us now. At least for me, I should say, right? And so, yeah, I don't, I don't know if I have. Yeah, I'm also, I own who I am in my mind too. Like, I still, I'll have triggers, but the triggers are like fantasies, almost like, oh man, like I have this fantasy still, or just thinking about like the wild and free, that wild and free party dude, or just no cares in the world, like they've all kind of shifted those thoughts. Like, I still, in a way, have, you know, wild and free, but they were like with the four of us, my family. But I am who I am, right? So I still have triggers and glimpses of like, hey man, that was fun back then, or imagine you're in this alternate universe and you go to this place and you do whatever you wanted and you come back and there's no guilt and you didn't hurt anybody and everyone's still like, like, oh, maybe I would take a ride, take it to that ride, to that place, that fantasy place that doesn't exist. And I say that as a 51-year-old man, like, look how sick that is to even, it's ridiculous, right? But it's that's what happened when I guess the mind that we have, right? But that's how
Yeah.
that's how it was.
So, what about those people that are on a journey, they're sober, and then they just, I need to escape. I just need to numb out for a while, and they go back to drinking.
I mean, it's a broad question, but if like, let's say it was with three of us, let's say this imaginary person, it was the three of us, I would just say, do you want to be sober or not? Kind of simple. I think
Mm.
sometimes, and again, I don't want to speak to anyone's relapse at all, but
Mhm.
because I am so fearful of it. But I think sometimes people, we've all both seen people give up for, whatever reasons. I think maybe, I don't know, they're comparing. I think sometimes it's hard to hang in there. I think a better way for me to answer that question is when I've been there, because I have been there right around the 10-year mark or so, where I was like, you know what? I've had enough of this. Like, and I wasn't like working a program. I wasn't like going to meetings. I didn't have a sponsor. Everyone knows I got sober in AA. And I'm not saying that's the only way that's not the only way, because it's not the only way. But for me, AA is where I got sober. And
Well, nearly 20 years ago, there wasn't many other options.
true, right? There was no Recover Out Loud, social media
Yeah.
community, and right, there was a lot of these coaches and things. And but so I was there 10 years, like I was at year right around year 10. And I was feeling really bad about myself, saying poor me, why can't I just have a drink, glass. Here's how why can't I just have a glass of wine like with my brother-in-law like a normal human being? Now I hate wine. Like that's what I mean. My mindset's wrong. I never ever liked wine. Like, so I don't even know why I thought this, but I did. And so I went to a meeting, and I saw one of my dad's old buddies who like used to be in my house, in and out of the house, kind of these like rough dudes. And he's like, "Hey man, really glad to see you here." And I was like, "Yeah, good to see you too." I was like, "Just so you know, like I'm probably going out. I probably had enough of this." And he looked at me, he's like, "All right." He's like, "You can't do that, right?" I was like, "Yeah, I do, but I'm just telling you, and I don't even know why I'm telling you, but like that's where I'm at." He's like, "All right." And so now at this point, I have a 3-year old and a 2-year old at home. And things are tough at home. Things are tough on the financial landscape, work wise. And so I go in and I sit in this meeting, and this guy spoke, and he said, I was sober for 16 years, and I thought I had it, and I thought I was good. And I went back out, and I lost my job. I lost my business. And I lost my family, and my daughters haven't spoken to me since. And he scared the crap out of me. And all I said was, okay, I'm gonna keep coming back for a little bit longer. And I did, and I'm happy. So thankful that I did, and I got back into it though. That's the other part. Like I put both feet. I wasn't having one foot over here and one foot in
Mhm.
program, calling myself, sober. Yes, I hadn't drank, but I went back in. I got a sponsor. I went through the steps again. Like I went back in, and that was a tough spot. I've seen people. I don't know if 10's a weird year, but I have heard people say, 10 can be a little squirrely. I don't know.
I think I want to say somebody that I know, like family, they went, I think I want to say they were about 10 years sober.
Mm,
And then they were like, I got this. But I don't know if it's to the level that they were at before they quit, but I know that it's still it's in their life again.
yeah, yeah. And so I don't know. I've heard it, and it kind of happened to me, but I hung in there. I did. I got scared enough into it. And I think around the same time, um, this, I think I was mentioning my buddies earlier, I never like, I feel like I like checked out of life, at least like that part of life for like a year, at least the first year. And I feel like I missed some. I still have that feeling like I missed stuff with them. And I remember sitting around like at a buddy's barbecue, and I was like, I never really like had the conversation with you guys. Like, what did you guys think? Like when I went to rehab and all that stuff. And what do you guys think? Again, because these guys, they're not angels, and they kind of all looked around each other. They're like, we thought you were gonna die. I'm like, stop. They're like, no, we've talked about this, openly. Like we all thought you're on a path, collision court. We all thought you were gonna die. And I was like, really? I was like, and again, I had that feeling like, all right, I'm gonna keep doing this for a little while longer, and get back into it. And so you have these moments. Listen, like you want to talk about a God moment, at least for me. You hear this too. Like here's God moments. Walking into that meeting, seeing that my dad's buddy who probably have resentments in a weird way because of some of the stuff in my house that time. I see him. I haven't seen him probably since I was, 10 years old. And to just blurt out to him, like, hey, yeah, just so you know, I'm probably, this is probably my last meeting type thing. I'm probably going out and then hear the guy share his story about him losing his business and then losing his family, 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, if that's not, again, this is for my own plea. I don't have to convince anyone out there, but for me, like, that's God keeping me in my seat and saying, all
Yeah.
right, here you go. Here's what's ahead. If you want to go to that path, I think you're on a good path here.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people have a God moment. I mean, if you're a believer.
Yeah, no, I'm a believer. Listen, when I was out there, I was a foxhole prayer guy for sure. So like I always had, I am a believer. I'm a big believer. I'm not as religious as a lot of people that we probably both know as well. So I'm trying to paint the picture, but I always had my own kind of relationship with God, with a higher power, and now I have a very super close relationship. I start my morning in prayer with him, and it's all gratitude prayers. And at the end of the day, I thank him again, just like I started 19 years ago. It starts with please give me the gift of sobriety today, and it ends with thank you for giving me the gift of sobriety today, because it worked 19 years ago. I never forget. I did it one day, and I said, "Holy cow, did that work? I didn't drink today. Oh my God, I'm gonna try it again tomorrow." And that's how it was just that's how it
Wow.
was. Yeah.
I have had several podcasts, and one of them really stuck out to me. I mean, he's here locally, so I talked to him in person. But his moment was repenting in a field full of cows,
Hey,
and he
whatever.
never drank again.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah.
Yeah, hey, whatever works, man. Whatever, wherever you got to go, that's wild. I have
Again, a
heard.
path of destruction, gonna die. I mean, your friends
Yeah,
thought that's a interesting concept right there. Asking your friends what they think.
this is late. This
I
is
don't. I
10
don't know if
years of
I want to
sobriety.
know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It was bothering me. I was like, what do these guys really think? Like, and I don't know what I expected. I thought like, oh, like, we all kind of, he was definitely a little, not a little, he was a different animal for sure. But, like I said, they're not angels too. But yeah, that was the answer. And I was actually, I think about that kind of often. I do.
So that's a good for those of us that become 10 years sober. Ask your friends what they think of you.
Hmm.
I'd
Or,
love to
or,
know.
or maybe the message is, if you're starting to feel squirrely or you poor me, or you feel like you got this and you got enough education now, you're a different person, like, get back into your program and double down on your
Yeah,
sobriety.
yeah. I mean, so so many programs out there, so many ways to get sober now. Some can do it on their own, some need help.
Hmm.
And I think it's a personality thing. I talked to my counselor one time, and she said, she said certain personalities do need to go to AA.
Hmm.
Some people can do it on their own, but I
Yeah,
mean, I've never stepped foot in AA, so I like letting people share their stories, whether they like it or don't like it, because it gives everybody has a space. Did it help them? Yes. Did it help them? No. But not every it's not going to help not one thing's going to help everybody. Everybody's
absolutely.
a different person. Everybody's journey is different. I
100%.
mean,
I
I
totally
didn't punch
agree.
a cop in the face, but I mean, I might have.
You might have. Like, you might have. You never know. I just, it's very simple for me. Like, I don't care how you get here. Like, if you have to get here, like, I'm so glad you're here. Like, I really am so glad you're here. If someone asks me, Gary, how did you do it? And maybe it helps them, I'm going to tell them my story, which is I went to Alcoholics Anonymous. Again, I didn't even know there was this whole
Twice?
community. Oh, I was in and out. I went to rehab in 2002, and that was the first meeting I ever went to, because I had to go to a meeting in AA. And I remember it clear as day when I had to sit in a circle and it came to me, and I was like, it said, I had to say it, I'm Gary, I'm an alcoholic. And I thought, look what you did to yourself now, man. Look at where you are. Now you really blew it. Like, your life's
That
over.
gives me so much anxiety. Just
Yeah.
saying it that way.
Yeah.
So
That's what I
crazy.
did. Yeah. And then so I went back and I left that rehab, and 30 days after that I was back out, and I was in and out. I never once put, I always say never put 90 days together. I don't think I even put 60 days together in between those 4 years. But another God moment, I was May 12th, 2006. I was sitting in my apartment in New York City in West Village, West 12th Street. I say it's a Tuesday. I really should go back and look, but it was just such a non-event night. That's why I say it was a Tuesday, I guess, but I should say what day it really was. But it was just such a non-event. I've been way worse places. I've been way, darker places, and I was just sitting in my apartment all by myself, which towards the end I loved to be. I was a professional isolator. I actually loved to be alone. I loved it. I would go out with a group of people, and then at some point I would just Irish exit and just leave them and go find my own dark place. I used to say, find me a place with no windows and a jukebox, and I'm good, and I'll stay there all night long. And I can still say that. And you can see how I say that and how that's so real. But I was sitting in my apartment with the windows drawn, and I said, God, I don't want to do. I'm the youngest. I'm the oldest. I'm the first grandchild on my mom's side. And she's one of 10. There's a huge family on my mom's side, which best group of uncles. I have 7 uncles. I got like 20 something younger cousins, but I'm the oldest cousin. And I remember thinking of them like, is this what you want them to think? They kind of like looked up to me, I guess. And like, remember thinking, is this what you want them to think is okay for their life? Like, is this what you want to show them? Like, is this what you want to portray like that for them to, because I know for me, I looked on up to older people, older cousins and
Yeah.
family members. I was like, is this what you want them to show? Is like, this is how do you live your life? And I just said, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I was like, God, I can't do this. And for the first time, oh, by the way, I was never, so I was one of those people, like, probably have to stop drinking at one point, but I'm not going back to those meetings. That's for sure. I'm not going back there. And, again, God, moved my feet and moved my hands better, better than I could. And I found myself calling New York City Intergroup, and I went to a meeting on May 13th, 2006, and I haven't had a drink or a drug or anything since.
Wow, good for you. Like that's
Yeah, good
crazy.
for me.
So how was that first year? Do you
You
remember?
know, I do. And, looking back, well, again, I think I mentioned I just had like this tunnel vision. I was AWOL from this job. I went AWOL from the job, and I somehow kept it. Like somehow when I came back, I somehow kept it. But, that first year, looking back, maybe when I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but looking back, it was a beautiful year because all I had to do was go to work. And what they do is they give you a pamphlet back in the day, and people would write their numbers on it. And all I had to do was go to work and then look at the pamphlet and see what meeting I'm going to. Maybe I'd go to 2. And that's what I did, for a whole year. And again, when I was there, and that this is the same year, I feel like I checked out of everything else with anybody else. And I just was like, I'm just going to meetings. And I did things a little differently. I got a sponsor. I didn't just like sit in the back and kind of check the box. Like I went and sat in the front. It was very uncomfortable. It wasn't easy. I went to some like, it was all in New York City too. And for everything that New York City has to offer, my favorite thing about this city is it's AA. It's because there was 24 hours. You can get to a meeting 24 hours a day on the
Oh,
hour, and so it was it was a great spot. It was a great group of people, all over the city, and that's all I did. So again, maybe if you asked me that first year how was it going, I probably would have said, fine, and just kept walking. But like looking back, and I have thought about it. It was a beautiful year, in a weird way, I guess. It was great looking back. That's all I had to do, and then I had this amazing girlfriend who actually helped me get this job, and she's my wife today. Like, so she's been, she's seen all of this person, and so I somehow was able to, which I don't know how still. I don't want to ask that question, but still able to hang on to her. She stayed with me. She saw something in me that nobody else did. She stuck with me.
yeah. And you guys have your oldest is 16?
No, no, 12 and 10.
Oh, 12 and 10.
Yeah.
I don't know where I got 16 at. um 12 and 10. So you've been sober their whole life.
Yeah, and that's another thing I say is, which I'm so blessed to say this is, my kids never saw their dad drunk, and the way I drank if I had just a sip of light beer, like my whole entire aura and everything, my whole energy would change, and would they would be scared probably immediately. I truly believe that. I really do. I would certainly scare them, everyone around me, and I think I would scare them just with my energy. They pick something's off for sure.
So are you an angry and abrupt drunk?
Yeah, I
Or
was
were you?
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I'd be the happiest guy in the place. I'd be the loudest guy in the place, and then drop of the dime, I'd be the most nastiest guy maybe you've ever seen. Perhaps I don't know, not to compare, but like that's where it was. Like
Yeah.
that was always the story. Like I don't know, he was fine. All of a sudden, something happened. Dude snapped. Like so. Yeah, I was angry. I got in a lot of trouble. I did. And definitely had a lot of anger for sure. Massive
I
chip on
have
my shoulder.
I have Maggie and Martha. Martha was the bad one. Maggie was the fun one.
You named him? Oh, there
No,
you go.
he named them. Jonathan named them.
Oh, your husband.
So Martha came from the Party Down South series. Martha,
Okay.
I don't know,
Yeah.
like some people might know who I'm talking about. Like she was like crazy, violent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know where Maggie came from. I mean, but Maggie was like the, oh, let's go. And then all of a sudden it was just like flip of a dime, bam,
Flip a
Martha.
switch. Yeah. Yeah. No, that was, yeah. That's funny that, because he could just tell you, like, hang on a second, like, go back to Martha, please. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think there's something that says a lot about sober parenting, and lately I've been diving into that a little bit more because there's it's so powerful being a sober parent. And
Hmm.
there's nothing better. Like you're not masking the chaos throughout the day even though it is chaotic. I joked I joked in the beginning of summer. I said, "Oh my gosh, I think this is going to be the summer I relapse." Not a joke, but I mean, but I was just so overwhelmed. I'm like, usually I would be drinking by now,
Right.
getting with my friends. Let's just go bring some seltzers to the park because those are better to drink for you.
Yeah.
But then come home and drink wine or hard alcohol. But I'm not drowning. I'm living in it now. I'm not
Yeah.
drowning it out.
Right. Right.
But it's hard sometimes, and I think that's why a lot of us don't know how to um I mean, I've parented drunk and I parented sober, so there's a ginormous difference, and I will choose the sober parenting any day over the drunk parenting.
Yeah. No, I'm sure I know there is, I've seen it too, for sure. I would also say you should be weary of those voices, right? I feel like you said that this is the year I'm gonna relapse. Like that would scare the shit out of me. Excuse me, that would
Well,
scare.
so I went and I got a flavor that resembled like a margarita, I guess, like
Yeah.
because I was like the lemon lime, and it was just like one of those like, man, these kids are gonna make me take a shot of tequila, and I would never do that. And I mean, I know it's not a funny joke, but like sometimes it's just you're so just frustrated with the day, and
Yeah.
I don't think people know how to get past that without turning to alcohol. And
Mm,
I mean, you just have to. There's no answer how to get through it. You got to breathe through it. You got to just sit there, give yourself like 20 minutes to cool down and move on.
or call somebody.
Or
Like
yeah,
that.
call
That's
someone.
how. Like that was how it was directed to me. That was suggested to me. Like if you're feeling squirrely, like you got to call me. And here's some numbers. Like that was a big deal, and that's a huge part of all of this. There's people that they're isolated and they're alone, and yes, they're trying to figure it out all by themselves. And I think there's too many people. Um, again, coming from myself, I was as stubborn as you can possibly get. So I'm thinking even out loud now on the spot, like if there was other ways to attack this, I bet you I would have tried every single one. I probably would have in a way. Again, what worked for me is what worked for me, but there was plenty of times, Megan, where listen, where I was going wherever it was in a weird spot, I put myself in a position I shouldn't have been. And, the triggers are like, it's right there. Like the whole thing is just about to explode. And and I was like, this guy told me to call him. I'm just gonna call him and be like, listen, man, I'm in a bad spot. Like I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. And I had a conversation with them, and this happened a few times, and they helped me. It wasn't just one
Yeah,
person; it was a few people that helped me. I stayed on the phone with them, and you kind of, like you had just said, you maybe talked me off the ledge in a way. Just said, all right,
yeah,
just drink tomorrow. Like, just, you don't have to drink now. Sometimes
right.
it's as simple as that. But I
I mean,
mean,
I
for
will.
people all alone, that's a tough place to be.
I mean, as some know, like I was going through a lot. I mean, still going through a lot, but like Michael really helped me in the
Yeah,
beginning. Like he
right.
was just like constantly checking in on me.
Yeah, he's such a good
And,
dude.
I think like I don't necessarily pick up the phone and call people, but I will text
Hmm.
or email, and um it's just nice having people come to your rescue and just lift you back up when you're
Yeah,
feeling like super down. And that's why I tell my people that I coach, like yesterday, I coached somebody and I said, please just call me if you get in that situation, or text me or whatever. If you're feeling overwhelmed, your head's going to explode, just call me, pick up the phone. I don't care if I can't answer, I can't answer, but I will call you back.
absolutely.
And I try to offer that, but obviously I am a mom and wife, and
Yeah,
like, but um I think it's definitely important to be able to have people that we can turn to and vent to, and just life sucks today, and then have them throw you a Bible verse or a quote or something, or
yeah. I was just gonna say to that point actually that it doesn't this it happens to me or happens to friends of mine. It doesn't have to necessarily, be about picking up a drink or something else. It could be life, something
yeah,
you're just feeling down. Like that happens. That happens a lot, right? Like you're full of fear, financial fears, like, so it's good to have a group of people that are kind of in your corner because all that stuff can lead to a drink. And then once the drink happens, at least someone like me, and I'm sure a lot of people listening, I'm sure yourself, then, like all bets are off. And then things are really going to just blow up. So to
yeah,
have those, a place to go, whether it's a text chat for me, like I'm in a group of guys, and get them, there's four of us. Well, hey man, you get a text from someone really feeling like a piece of crap today and this and that. I feel like a bad dad. I did this. I was angry with my kid. I was rude to my wife. My boss sucks. Like all the real life stuff, it's a good, I'm a firm believer is you need to get that stuff off your chest, and
yeah,
so I think having one person or a group of people, or like, I swear by this group text. There's the four of us right now. I have some other ones too, but it's real life stuff. Like it's
yeah,
real life stuff that you know who've all been through similar things that I've been through. But we're talking about, like I said, real life stuff. But if you let it go, if I'm all alone, I can't do this all alone. I don't think, like if I'm all
no,
alone, I don't know. I don't know how I'd be. And I say that almost not tongue in cheek, that's the wrong term, but I'm also like I wait too long. Like I go too far down the rabbit hole before I
yeah,
do say, hey man, you know what? Probably should have called you 48 hours ago, but here's where I'm at. And I feel better after having that conversation, just talking it out. Like nothing has changed. There's the circumstances haven't changed. I've just had the conversation. I've kind of got it out maybe in the universe, and I feel better about it. And so, and I say that a lot, to like my group, like, oh man, I should have listened to what I've been taught for the past 20 years, and I should have called you right away when it started to boil up. And, I let things simmer and boil, and that's just, it's who I am. But I'll
and then
learn
they
one of
pop,
these days. Yeah.
pop.
Yeah. Then I pop. Right.
I mean, I guess I just let certain things get to me way too much, and I let people attack me in ways that, like, I don't know. And it's just a really hard place right now. Like, um, my husband sent me a Bible verse this morning, 2 Timothy 3:12. If you live for God, people will come after you. And I feel like that's just been what my life has been the last month and a half, is these people will just not stop coming after me. And it's why me? Like what am I doing? Like I literally am sharing to the world and changing people's lives. And why am I being attacked? Like it's just really like hard sometimes. And so that's like when I say like uh I've been the most tested in my sobriety the last 2.5, 3 months
Yeah.
than I ever have been.
Right.
And if I can get through this, I don't understand why people can't get through some of the stuff that they're going through because life sucks and people are evil. And I mean, that's why it's just so nice to have people that you can, relate to or just, yeah, turn to, whether it be, group texts or whatever. But I have my community and I'll share a post of how I'm feeling one day. And I have like so many just run to that post and just like lift me up. I mean, it's a community. We build a community, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I know a little bit that you've had some tough times recently. I know that we spoke, it was about a month ago or so, and you filled me in on some stuff. I think that's why. I think I would say to lean in more. There's an adage. If you're not feeling well, call someone. And it might not have to be to spew like my stuff, but to check in with them, because when you take the thoughts off yourself and you put it towards someone else, like, it can help you make you feel better. And
Yeah.
life can be very hard for sure, but life doesn't have to suck. And especially in sobriety, like, we didn't get here, we didn't do all this whole journey, we didn't go through all this stuff to live a life that sucks. We can control what we can control. Like, you can't control the people that are coming at you, right? That's out of your control. You can control what Megan can control. It doesn't make it easy. It makes it, some
Yeah.
days are harder, but you got your crew, you got your family. That's kind of, at the end of the day, you have your community that you're continuing to build. You got to keep doing what you're doing, but you know, um, we're all vulnerable, right? So you got to protect. I learned this at the beginning too, and I didn't understand what it meant, but today I know exactly what it means. So you got to put your sobriety first. Like, that has to come first. I need to be like, well, hang on a second. But for me, putting my sobriety first is putting my higher power first too. You're
Yeah.
obviously very religious, and putting your higher power, putting God first. Like, you start your day with God. And so for me, that's what is putting sobriety first means, obviously abstaining from alcohol, but it means, getting connected with my higher power, like, right away.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And that's what we've been leaning into a lot lately is I don't know. Whatever works for, me and you may not work for everybody else, but I mean, there's no hurt in trying, right?
No, absolutely. You got to put your
So
best
I
foot forward.
tell I told somebody, they were like, "I don't know what to do." And I'm like, "Just say a prayer.
Yeah.
You might be amazed."
That started for me from the very beginning.
Mm.
That
Yeah,
that was
see?
I mentioned, like, from the it was said, all right, listen, put your shoes on the floor next to your bed. I said, why? Because the first thing you do, you get on your knees, grab your shoes, you get on your knees, and you say a prayer and ask God to give you the gift of sobriety today. And if he gives you the gift of sobriety today, then at the end of the day, get back on your knees and just thank him for giving you the gift of sobriety today. And I did that, and I was like, did that work? I can't believe that. Like, I actually didn't drink today. I mean, it sounds crazy to say, but that's really
Yeah.
what it was like. I was like, holy cow, I think that worked. I'm going to do it again tomorrow. And, I did. And again, it's, especially at the beginning, especially early on, like, there's so much unknown, especially when you have your whole muscle memory, everything is one path, one journey. It's getting moved. I think we were talking about it earlier, moving over to this completely new life. I was the last person to realize I was getting better. People were like, you look great. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you look like just healthier. And I was like, I didn't feel any better. Like, I was just like, I was afraid I was gonna fall off again. But here we are.
Yeah. So you got into hiking?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what other things helped you, you know, get this far?
Well, hiking came along later. I think COVID is really what got me into hiking. I just to get out, and but with that, I think it was, I don't know if it was here, but this beautiful huge umbrella that happens in sobriety of, like, health and wellness and being a good
Uh,
person and being a better person than you were yesterday. And yes, life's hard, of course, but we learn how to cope, and we have tools in the toolbox. But I think COVID was when I was sitting in, I remember people going crazy. I'm like, well, I'm okay. And then one day, like it hit me. I was like, holy cow, I think this is what everyone's talking about. And I was like, I'm just gonna go out for a walk. And I went for a walk, and I felt so much better after that silly walk. And I was, kind of like the prayers. I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
do that again tomorrow. And like that's started my walking. And the next thing I know, I'm like searching for hiking trails and I love it because it helps my mind, right? We get
Yeah.
physically better and fit more physically in shape, but I do it for my mind. It clears my mind. That's why, exercise, again, these are things that aren't like the easiest thing to do right. We sometimes we don't want to do them, right? Like I know you're big into exercise. I'm sure you don't always want to go do your routine or hit the gym or to go to get whatever it may be, but almost every single time I'm like, wow, I'm glad I did that. Same thing like
Yeah.
going to a meeting for me or calling someone that when I'm in a bad spot. It's like they're hardest things to do almost, at least for this guy. But after you do them, you feel so much better. Like I feel so much better that I went and hit that trail and walked and then sweating. I love to sweat. I feel so much better that I went to that meeting. I didn't want to go, but man, I'm so happy I went. Like I'm so happy I went to it. I don't want to call him. I don't want to call him after you talked, half hour, whatever it is. Like, man, I feel so much better. I'm so glad I called him. But I'm still wired to be like, it seems like a difficult thing, but that's my ego. It's my ego telling me, oh, he doesn't want to hear you, or you don't need it, you don't need that, but you go and do it. You just across the board, you you feel better. It's in my
Yeah.
mind. It's clearing my head.
Walking is a huge, huge thing. Uh, so I didn't start reading quit lit books until I don't know, I was a year sober, whatever. But a lot of them I pick up is yoga and walking and healthy eating.
Yeah. See, right. I think I saw an app actually, yoga and walking. I think I have it on my phone. Yeah, it's true. There's so much out there on the other side of your alcoholism or the other side of your addiction that, you know, maybe we're not aware of. Maybe people are a little more aware of it now. There is quit lit books and there's all these communities online, right? But it's real. It's a beautiful life on the other side of this.
I don't think I would have quit drinking with a quit lit book.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
mean I that for personally I don't think I would have. I don't know.
I mean, I think I'm pretty clear that yeah, I needed to really get dragged down. Like some book by myself. No way. Like people carried me. I didn't realize it, but like they carried me. Totally,
Yeah.
totally carried me. I didn't even know it. Didn't even know it.
So when people mess or comment and they're like, "Oh, I read this book and I quit drinking," and I'm like, "It literally just took a book for you to quit drinking? That's it?" Like it boggles my mind because I'm using these books as education now to,
Yeah,
further, educate
your
how to help
career.
people.
Right.
But I read these books, I'm like, how does that help someone? But that's just me because I did the hard work in the very beginning.
Right.
And I think a lot of people, it's easy to put the bottle down. The hard part is staying away from it. Sure, I cannot drink today, but why am I not going to drink today?
Well, it's just today. It really is a daily reprieve.
Yeah.
It really is just today. And I got myself in trouble when I was like, all right, I'm not drinking now. And oh, look, that guy got his 90-day coin. I can't wait. Let me see. Let me go to the calendar. All right, so all right, 90 days. That's when I'd circle it, and I never get there. So it's just live in the today. It's hard. It's like just be present. It's not easy, especially in this day and age when everything wants immediate satisfaction and these supercomputers in our pocket. Like to just like take a breather and just be like, hey man, you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. Like that. Sometimes that's hard to even in this day. It's hard to really grasp in a weird way. Like, where I'm supposed to be right now, Megan? I'm supposed to be right here in this seat having a conversation with you.
Yeah.
That's it. We're on the same page, I think, big time on how we view at least our paths of sobriety. Because yes, I think they're pretty similar.
Yeah. And I just love how these communities bring people together, and then maybe some people will never meet in person, but you have like a lifelong friend.
It's so true. And maybe we will meet in person, but because we've
Yes.
tried to, and he was close by, but I wasn't here or whatever. But I totally agree with that. There's people that I've met in the past, 2 years, especially since I started the podcast, that I was just on another one with another amazing dude, Jason LaChance. He's on the Pain podcast. He used to have another one. He's probably working on another one. He's awesome dude, and we're boys. Like we really are. We talk, and I think I have almost every single guest in my phone, and we text, and I I love, like I said at the beginning, talking real life with people. Like I also
Yeah.
love keeping the relationships, and because
Yeah.
this is a journey, and and I say this all the time, and it's so true. And the most incredible people that I know, Megan, like hands down, like you're one of them, like hands down, most incredible people I know are people in recovery. Especially people that flipping the script and trying to help other people. It's uh,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
It is. And I love getting off of podcasts and I go and tell Jonathan, I'm like, oh my gosh, I really want to meet that person. Or, man, why can't she live like right down the road from me?
Yeah.
She would be my
Yes.
best friend. Or,
Right.
oh
Yeah.
my gosh, we need to go visit these people. I mean, I
Yep.
just love it. It's, everybody's stories are so inspiring, and being able to, have podcasts like ours and just keep sharing people's stories, whether, they be super tragic or, not very tragic. Uh, we all have one common denominator, and it's getting sober.
Absolutely. What you're doing is great, Megan. It really is.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see what Recover does for you. I'm so excited.
I appreciate that. Yes, I'll keep you up on that. You're gonna you're already a part of it. You're wearing it, so
Yeah.
there's a lot to
I
come.
mean, I wear the tank tops when I work out, and I wear the sweatshirt when it's cold. Lately it's been in the 90s. So
All right.
where can people find you?
So I'm across all socials, but I really hang out the most on Instagram. My handle on Instagram is the Begin Again podcast, and the brand is Recover, RCVR underscore brand on Instagram. And the website for Recover is rcvrbrand.com, recoverbrand.com. And like I said, I'm not trying to lessen the stigma. I want to eliminate the stigma, and I want to just continue to raise awareness, and for this incredible community, it's Recover Out Loud community. Yeah, and then my podcast is across wherever you listen to all your podcasts.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gary, for being here.
Thanks for having me. This has been a blast. Thanks for I really enjoyed our conversation.